Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Travel Talk Tuesday. This is May the 25th, 2021. Boy, we're progressing on into the year, and it looks like a lot of Europe is going to be opening, especially the destination that I'm going to talk about tonight, and that is Barcelona in the north of Spain. It's a wonderful town, just right almost on the border of France, and a whole area that, although it's a part of Spain, it's also a region known as Catalonia. And they have their own dialect, their own banks, their own semi-governor or president. And, so they're trying to break away from Spain for the last 15 or 20 years. So today we're going to talk about Barcelona. Let me share my screen here and just give you the big picture of where we are. So you can see here a map, and on this map is a map of Spain. You see up to France to the north and Italy over to the east. And so you can see Spain and Portugal together are called known as the Iberian Peninsula. And you see that Barcelona is very close to the border of France and the Pyrenees Mountains, which just to the north of Barcelona begin soaring up into the sky all the way up, all the way across the border of France. So that's the big story with that. Let me zoom in just a little bit more, and you can see a close-up view of what we're going to talk about tonight, and that's the city of Barcelona. You can see Spain, Madrid is here, and that's a totally different, it's almost like going to a different country. And what I want to do here with this map is just show you a little bit about my Best of the Med tour. And it begins in Barcelona and makes its way along the Mediterranean coast through a lot of France. And it includes Nice, the Côte d'Azur. It includes some of the mountain towns as well. And then some of the Roman towns like Arles and Aix as well. So you see a lot of French culture or provincial culture there. But then it finishes up in the Cinque Terre in Italy, which is also on the Mediterranean Sea, with 3 nights. So the first 2 nights on this tour is spent in Barcelona. So that's what we're going to look at tonight. Now, for me, Barcelona can be broken up into probably 5 or 6 different areas. The first one is this area, the main street running from the center of town down into the port, known as Las Ramblas in Spanish, but La Rambla in Catalan dialect. Now you can see it's a broad pedestrian-only street, tree line, so it's great day and night with restaurants and cafes all the way up and down that. And it's just a fantastic place to go stroll and visit. Back in the day, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, it was known as Europe's most well-known area to be pickpocketed. And you can see this is from several years back, many tourists on this street. But since then, it's been cleaned up a little bit. And so it's very safe, but you do need to watch your stuff and wear your money belt. Right off Las Ramblas is a market that's known as the La Boqueria market. And this market has been here in this location since the 12th century. But just since the late 1800s, this building structure was built over the market area, and there's just all kind of vendors in there, as you can see, selling anything from seafood to meats to vegetables and fruits, and you name it. The name La Boqueria comes from the Catalonian dialect, we think, and a boc in Catalan is a goat. And so back in the day, this was a place where you would go to buy goat meat. Now, it's kind of interesting because just into the Mediterranean Sea in the island of Sicily, in the town of Palermo, there's a market there called Vucaria, which, as in the Sicilian dialect, also means goat. So I don't know if goat meat's really there. you just see a lot of red meat on shelves and a lot of organ meat and all that kind of stuff when you go to these markets. But it's kind of interesting, the origin of those words. So that's La Boqueria Market. You can buy spices to take home, herbs to take home. And you can see if you live there and you had a kitchen, you'd have fresh food every day, all day long. La Boqueria Market. Look at those whole fish there. Now, just off Los Ramblas and to the, I guess we would go to the east of Los Ramblas because it runs basically north and south, is the Cathedral District, and it's in the Old Town or Barri Gothic, the Old Gothic town. And this cathedral is a cathedral of Barcelona, and it was begun in the 1200s and finally finished up around the 700s with this, or finally finished up around the 1600s with this facade that was put on. The cathedral is huge, and it's dedicated to, let me check my notes here, a young lady who was a missionary sent to this area of Spain named Eulalia. And this is dedicated to her, and she became a saint, Eulalia. And because of this, there's a lot of legends, and to become a saint, you have to have some miracles performed. And legend goes that she was spreading the word of Christianity to the Romans who had occupied the city at the time. And what had happened was that the Romans didn't want anything to do with it, and they strung her up in the main public square and put her out there naked. And along came in the middle of the summertime a snow, and the snow covered her nakedness. But they grabbed her again and they put her in a barrel filled with knives. That they put knives all inside the barrel, and they rolled the barrel down a street, and she was killed. And she was interned and buried eventually in the crypt of this cathedral right here in Spain, in Barcelona, Spain. And so that's the legend of the saint. And she's sharing the patron sainthood with another one here in Barcelona. I can't leave this without talking a little bit about food. These are our Charlotte, my friends, Byron and Laura from Texas. And the food here is fantastic, especially if you like seafood. This is a paella that we got in this restaurant, and it's pretty good. That's a lot of rice and seafood mixed in. It's wonderful. These are some nachos and sangria, which is also a delicacy, a delicate drink you get here in Barcelona. And this is a little bit of that paella with the seafood on it. And another shot of that paella. But we like, I don't know if this has come up yet or not. There we go. I really like this right here is gazpacho, and you'll see that all over Spain. And gazpacho and that sangria goes together very well. But gazpacho is sort of a cold tomatoes and cucumber soup with onions and bread in it and pureed. And then a lot of times you can see that plate that's right there in front of it. It's got those ingredients: peppers, tomatoes, onions, and some other elements that you can add to the soup and the gazpacho and enhance the flavors. But it's great and refreshing because it's a cold soup along with a cold glass of sangria is a perfect way to have a lunch in Barcelona, or any other part of Spain for that matter. This port is right on the Mediterranean Sea, and Barcelona has always been an important port for trade and commerce ever since that began way back in the Middle Ages and even beyond in Roman times. And so the port here, if you can imagine that this the street that we talked about earlier, Las Ramblas, runs down to the south and it empties out right here in this square at the port. And nowadays, the port's used for sailboats and charter boats. Excuse me, and charter boats and these big yachts that the rich and famous have. But it's a beautiful little port right here in Barcelona. Everything that I've just talked about is 20 minutes walk from where we usually stay in our hotels. Here's some of those yachts. And just beyond the port, by the way, there's a huge, Europe's largest aquarium right here, you can see. And then beyond the port is this area that reaches the beach. And the beach is called Barceloneta. And until 1992, there was nothing here but industrial shipyards. And in preparation for the Olympics that were to occur in Barcelona that year, many tons of sand was shipped in from all over the Mediterranean and poured into this area and made nice sandy beaches. The downside is each year they have to keep bringing in sand to add back to it and top it up and everything. But these, in some of the travel magazines, this beach here in Barcelona makes up that's one of the top 10 beaches in all of the Mediterranean and all of Europe. So it's a beautiful place. I'm gonna let this run here so you can just kind of get a little idea of it. And just imagine that all that sand there is not original. It was brought in and pumped in. So there's a nice boardwalk with restaurants right nearby. And you can rent the umbrellas for 8 or 10 euro a day, or you can bring your own towel and lay on the beach like this young lady and man are doing. Either way, it's a great day to have some fun in the sun. Look how clear the water is there. The Mediterranean Sea is clear everywhere we go on this Best of the Med tour, and you'll see it and dip into it in Spain, France, and Italy. Here's a bird's eye view of the beach. I think I got a little video coming up that I shot some years back. This is the man-made beach in Barcelona, a reclaimed industrial area, now bustling with activity. Today it's Friday, and gosh, it's probably not even 80 degrees. But this seems to be a wonderful location to be. Too bad I didn't bring a swimsuit. Nearby, there is a funicular, or the teleferic, going up to this 600-foot mountain that just kind of rises out of the sea. The mountain is called Montjuic, and that's another Catalan word, or a Spanish dialect Catalan word. And 600 feet doesn't sound very high, but if you're at sea level and it's rising up, and on the east side, it's almost sheer cliffs that drop off, and you have great vistas across the city of Barcelona. And so you ride it from the beach, across the harbor, across the man-made beach, and up to this mountain. And it's just a great way to do that. So let me share a little bit of that as we take some photos and share some photos crossing here. You can see there's not many high-rise buildings in Barcelona. Those to the west or to the east that we're looking at seem to pop up. The aquarium and the cruise ship port is right in that region. And this is looking from the top of the mountain down and down into the harbor. Remember I said it's 600 feet and some sheer cliffs dropping to the harbor. This is not such a great picture, but it kind of shows a little bit about the cable car that goes up there. And this, you can hardly see it, but right here is a church. We're going to talk about it in a few minutes, designed by Antonio Gaudi, and it's called La Sagrada Familia. And so from this viewpoint is very, very prominent in the horizon. The next area I want to talk about is, if you can imagine, you were walking down that Las Ramblas earlier, and everything we've just seen is heading to the south down Las Ramblas, which, by the way, is about 3/4 of a mile in length. If you turn around and walk back to the north, you come to this region of town called the Eixample. And in the Eixample is an area known as the Block of Discord, because back at the turn of the 20th century, there were a group of architects and artists who developed this modernistic style, which was kind of organic and reached into the earth and took the elements from the earth and designed it into buildings and parks and everything like that, and cathedrals. And one of the most important one of those architects was Antonio Gaudi. He was born in 1852 and died in 1926. But he was such a prolific architect and just brought in a whole different kind of architectural style to this area in Catalonia, in Spain, in Barcelona. But there were also 4 other artists and architects as well. And so there's this one area of town in the Eixample section called the Block of Discord, where you have buildings like what you see here that are almost like sandcastles and whatnot, paired against 21st century glass buildings or 20th century glass buildings, and they just don't fit in. And each artist had their own style, so there's no harmony. It's all a discord in this region, the Block of Discord in the Eixample. Now, I mentioned Antonio Gaudi, and again, him being a very prolific architect in this region. Many of his creations have become UNESCO World Heritage Sites. So we're going to talk about a church that he began, and here we go, a little video about La Sagrada Familia.
This church, known as La Sagrada Familia, is the brainchild of Antonio Gaudi, a local architect who labored on this church for 43 years, from 1883 until his death in 1926. Since his death in 1926, work has stopped and begun, all according to donations and the entrance fees paid by tourists visiting the cathedral. The goal is to have the cathedral finished by the 100th anniversary of Gaudi's death in 2026. When completed, there will be 18 huge spires soaring to the heavens, some reaching almost 330 feet in height. You'll see here some of those spires reaching up, and the wonderful stained glass windows and the modernistic columns that support the cathedral. Gaudi's architectural style is unmistakable here on this Holy Family Church. It looks like a sandcastle just sprouting up organically right out of the soil. There are many, many, many facades and examples of architectural style all over the exterior of the cathedral and the interior as well. Here again is another view of some of the beautiful stained glass windows and a far-off view of the cathedral under construction. The various entrance facades depict the life of Christ and his mission here on earth. This is the Passion facade. Here are 4 of the towers reaching to the heavens, around 400 feet in height. Eventually, when completed, the center tower will be 560 feet in the air with a huge statue of Jesus topped with a cross that will shine like a lighthouse across the city of Barcelona.
So nearby, in the same area, the Eixample area, is a public park designed by Antonio Gaudi. And this was commissioned as sort of like a gated neighborhood, and was going to have 20 or 30 different homes built around the park, and the park was going to be their public place. The homes, only a few of them were built, but the park is there, and Gaudi was very instrumental in, you'll see right away, in contributing to the design as the architect. So Guell was the name, Mr. Guell was the name of the patron who paid for Gaudi and to design this park and to commission it. And so here's a little bit about Park Guell in the Eixample neighborhood in Barcelona.
Is this your first trip to Barcelona and the park?
Yeah, thanks for letting me know it's Barcelona, because it's Park Guell, I believe. And from what I understand, it's up high on a hill above town. Gaudi was commissioned by a rich guy named Guell, I believe, to make the gardens for his home, which is high up on the hill here. And it's kind of crazy because it's basically all this is mosaics. And what was interesting with Gaudi's style is he liked concave against convex. And that's how he did it. And what makes this different is that you see each one of these were, I guess, cast individually, broken apart so it could make this concave thing, and then have it convexed up here as well. So all over, so when you think about that, of all the pieces of ceramic that were cast for this park, it's just amazing. And then like over here behind us, this is one of the entrances, and you can see it with this stone, and then the stone has the blue and the white ceramic tiles all over the place as well, and it kind of gives you an effect of like the Moorish effect. If you could ignore all the Gaudi designs. And you know, we were thinking yesterday as well, is that where we get the term when somebody says that's too gaudy? I wonder if it comes from Antonio Gaudi and his style, because it definitely is unique and ornate, and maybe a bit gaudy. Okay, so long for Barcelona. We'll catch up with you in Madrid in a few hours. So this is some video. So what do y'all think of this park? Yeah.
My friend Louise Woolard, she and I taught together at Ridgeview High School. I was a band director, she was a choir director.
Had all the money, had the house up on the hill, and he came to Gaudi and said, I want to do this park. So Gaudi did the park, and then they built a couple houses in here, but nobody wanted to live in the houses, so the man who had all the money told Gaudi, you go live in the house. So Gaudi lived in the house. So he had his own personal park.
That's cool. Park Guell was designed by Antonio Gaudi, and work began on it in 1900 and progressed for about 14 years until the outbreak of World War I. Originally, it was planned to be a 30-acre park along with 60 residential high-end houses built here. But as I mentioned earlier, progress stopped in 1914 and never began again. And so there only 2 homes were built here. But the garden in the park is beautiful. You can see all this mosaic style here that I mentioned earlier in this video, but it's just a fantastic way to spend the day and to look at this modernistic architectural style of Antonio Gaudi. As a high-end residential community, it didn't really work out, but now we're left with just a wonderful park and a peek into Gaudi's eccentric genius in a setting that's in nature and beauty and harmony with Gaudi's typical style. Well, that about wraps it up for Barcelona. I know it's a short
a short session tonight, but thank you guys for all joining in. I appreciate it. You probably can tell that this isn't a live presentation because I'm off traveling this week, and I'll share my destinations with you next week, the first week in June. It's kind of interesting. I'm not going to Europe. I'm going somewhere else. And so hopefully I'll share that with you. And then we'll pick it up and continue on with our travels on the Best of the Med tour, heading through France and visiting the ancient medieval fortified town of Carsicon.